Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I'm going to be showing you the books that I received for Christmas. So I happen to be part of a very bookish family. Both my parents are crazy readers, my sister reads and writes, and I have been a lifelong reader as well because of them. So we tend to give and receive lots and lots of books for Christmas, and this year was no exception. In fact, I think that it might be my biggest Christmas book haul ever. It's just the best thing. We love to, at Christmas time, we give each other tons of books. As I say, sometimes they're books that we want to read and we give to someone else, and then we like steal it off of their pile, which is good fun. But one of our favorite things to do at Christmas time is to just sit and read together, which freaks some people out because we're just kind of quietly hanging out together reading, but it's one of my absolute favorite things to do ever, and I just absolutely love it. So we always give and receive books, we always hang out and read together, but we also always go to our local bookstore, whatever it may be, depending on where we're living, if we're in the US or the UK, and we buy a ton of books. So I received a gift card this year as well for Christmas. So I have my Christmas presents, and then I have the books that I bought with my kind of Christmassy gift cards as well. So there's a lot of books to talk about. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to get started with the books that I received as gifts, and then I'm going to go on to the books that I bought with kind of gift cards and things after Christmas. So a couple of these kind of go together because I got a couple of series, which is very exciting, and a couple of these I have actually read. So let's go ahead and get started. So first up, I received 3 of the Murderbot books for Christmas. So the very first one, All Systems Red, and I also received, I'm not sure what order these go in, I received Exit Strategy and Rogue Protocol, and I actually realized well after Christmas that these are books 1, 3, and 4, so you'll see book 2 in a different haul video. But I have been really wanting to read these for a long time. I actually already have read All Systems Red. I read it probably in 2018, and it wasn't the right time for me to read that book. And if you have seen my New Year's resolutions video, this is basically the reason that I have decided to add rereading books to my New Year's resolutions, because I have since read it after receiving it for Christmas. And I loved it. I knew that I loved the character and the concept, and I love science fiction, but for whatever reason when I read it in 2018, it didn't quite click in my head. But I've been hearing so much about this series and how much people love it, and I wanted to give it another try. So I asked for them for Christmas. I'm really glad that I did, because they are so fun. So the Murderbot Diaries is a series that follows a particular character, and I'm not sure what to call them, if they're kind of a cyborg or an android, but they're basically a sort of security unit that has organic human parts and robotic parts, and they are sort of they have this thing called a governor module, which regulates their kind of behavior and everything. And at the very beginning of the book, we find out that this particular security unit has hacked its governor module and has essentially gained kind of sentience and free will. And all it wants to do, since that has happened, is watch lots of kind of TV shows and reality TV and everything, and really wants the humans to just stop getting themselves into trouble and to leave it alone, which is just great. So this follows a particular mission that Murderbot, as it calls itself, is on, and kind of things begin to go wrong, and it's a delight. It's so much fun. I cannot recommend these novellas more highly, just judging from the first one. I'm currently reading the second one, and they're just so much fun. I really enjoyed these so far. Then I have another series, which is really exciting, and I have a little bit of a story that goes with these. This is the Immortals Quartet by Tamora Pierce. So this is Wild Magic, the very first one. Then we have Wolf Speaker, then Emperor Mage, and finally we have The Realms of the Gods. I love Tamora Pierce. She's great. She's brilliant. She was kind of my J.K. Rowling alongside J.K. Rowling when I was a kid. I read the Alana books when I was little. My friend and I walked to the library one day, which was really close to our school, when we were waiting to be picked up, and she was like, "You must read these Alana books." And I was like, okay, so I did, and I loved them. But my library only had the Alana books and I think the Trickster books. It's like a duology that deals with, I think, Alana's daughter. It's been a long time. And I thought that was all Tamora Pierce read for like almost 15 years until I met other Tamora Pierce fans and realized she's written a ton of stuff in this particular world. So the Song of the Lioness Quartet, which is somewhere behind me, I think. Oh, it's down below out of camera range, but it's directly behind me. I received for Christmas last year, and I'm actually planning on rereading all of those books because it's been many years since I read them. And then I'm going to read these, and then I believe Harper Voyager is going to be releasing the third quartet, which I think is Protector of the Small. So I'm going to read all of those, and then I'm going to start reading more in the world because I had no idea that she wrote other books. The wonders of pre-internet reading. So I'm very much looking forward to these. I don't know a huge amount about them, but I know that this is kind of the favorite quartet of a lot of people who I know who love Tamora Pierce, and I believe Dane, who's the main character, can communicate with animals. That's pretty much all I know, and I'm really, really excited to read these. Next up I have The Secret Commonwealth by Philip Pullman. This is the second book in the Book of Dust series. So this takes place in the same universe as his Dark Materials, which I've actually just finished in December, his sort of really, really big series. And the first of these, La Belle Sauvage, which is also directly behind me, follows a character named Malcolm when he is a child during the Great Flood, which is an event that you know about if you know about his Dark Materials. And baby Lyra is a character in that book, or at least she's present in that book. This one takes place when Lyra is a young woman attending Oxford University, and Pantalaimon, who is her demon, I believe witnesses a murder, and they have to kind of test their relationship and sort of go on this kind of adventure to find out what has happened. And Malcolm, that character from the first book, also plays a role in this book as well. So I am very excited for these. I need to read the first of these, obviously, and I've been waiting to finish his Dark Materials before I start on these, because that makes a lot of sense. And I actually live in Oxford, or around Oxford, so this sort of is even more kind of special and exciting for me. I'm really, really looking forward to this. This one I'm not going to get the chance to read for a little while though. Next book that I received for Christmas is Blood Heir by Emily Wen Zhao. This is a book that came out in November. It may sound a bit familiar. It had a lot of kind of controversy surrounding it when it was initially meant to come out. You can look it up. I'm not going to dive into it, but this is one I've been really looking forward to for a long time. I'm very, very intrigued because this is a kind of retelling of Anastasia, the Russian princess who many people think survived her family's massacre, but probably didn't. So this book follows a character named Anastasia, and she is a princess, and she is framed for her father, the emperor's murder, and she has to go on the run and clear her name, and she kind of gets involved with the underworld of her kingdom. This looks really, really good. I'm very, very intrigued to read it and kind of see what it's all about. Again, it was a big controversial book for a while, and I've had my eye on it for a very long time. So this is one that's super intriguing for me. I'm very much looking forward to reading it, and it has an amazing cover. I'm obsessed with this cover. And then finally, I have Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling and illustrated by Jim Kay. I really love these illustrated editions. They're kind of, at this point, the only official Harry Potter thing that I buy and collect because I love the illustrations by Jim Kay so much. And I think in October of 2019, I was lucky enough to get to go to an event at Blackwell's bookstore with him, and he talked about his kind of process, and he showed us lots of illustrations and sort of how he came up with all of these wonderful ideas and concepts, because obviously we have the movies as reference for what a lot of characters look like and everything. So he kind of talked about separating out his own imagination from the films and kind of combining the two, and he also showed us some illustrations that were deemed too scary to go into the illustrated editions, which was really fun. And these are just absolutely beautiful. Let me see if I can find. So like, if you haven't had a leaf through these illustrated Harry Potter books, they're absolutely lovely. I really, really love these illustrated versions. Oops, uh-oh. They remind me a little bit of like the fairy tale books and stuff that I used to love as a kid. So I'm very, very happy to have this. And actually, I didn't bring all of my books with me when he did that event, so he sent me home with some signed book plates. So I have a signed version from him, which is very, very exciting. So next I'm going to go through the books that I got with Christmas gift cards. So the very first one is Strange Practice by Vivian Shaw. This is one that a lot of my friends have been talking about and really love. I believe it's a completed series of 3 or 4 books. So this looks super, super fun. It is, I believe it takes place in Victorian London, and our main character, Dr. Greta Helsing, is a physician to the undead and the paranormal creatures of London. So at some point, someone is going around and murdering these creatures, and she's going to investigate to protect her clients and friends. This sounds really, really fun. This sounds like, you know when you kind of have a book that's, you're like, that was written for me? That's kind of this. So I'm very, very excited to read this. I've had this on my radar for a very, very long time. Super excited to dive in. Then I have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I've never read this, and I have never seen the film either. I believe it's a Hitchcock film. And fun fact, I am completely and totally obsessed with old movies, classic films. I have been since high school, I think. And we are actually showing Scottish husband a lot of classic films, kind of catching him up on stuff that he hasn't seen before. And my family was absolutely horrified to find out that I have neither seen nor read Rebecca. I have a very vague idea of what this book is about, but I'm going to kind of dive into it knowing as little as possible because it sounds like such a really creepy, fun, atmospheric book. So Rebecca follows I believe she's a nameless young woman who is sort of swept up by this very handsome widower named Maxim de Winter. And he proposes to her and they move to his Cornish estate called Manderley. However, she realizes that his now deceased first wife, Rebecca, kind of, it's not like a supernatural book or anything, but she has this incredible presence in the house and is very much still influencing matters, and she realizes that she doesn't know her husband very well at all. This sounds so good. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to finally taking this off of my list of books that I should have read years and years ago. It looks fantastic. Next, I have The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. I actually read this over the Christmas break just after I bought it and absolutely loved it. This is, fun fact, the second longest running play in the UK after I think The Mousetrap by Agatha Christie. And I have seen The Woman in Black I think 3 times now on stage over the course of several years, and it is fantastic. It's so good. Completely ignore the Daniel Radcliffe movie, which was terrible. It's a ghost story, and it was written, I think, in the 80s, but it's written kind of to be set at the turn of the century in the English countryside, and it follows a young solicitor who is sent to this sort of creepy old house where the owner, who lived very much in isolation, has died, and he has to go through her papers and get all of her affairs in order. However, everyone in the surrounding village is really, really kind of jumpy and skittish about this house, and they look very fearful when he says that he is there to stay in the house and get everything in order. And he begins seeing this vision of a ghostly young woman all dressed in black, and terrible things begin to happen. This is amazing. It's a novella that was adapted into the play. This is not like a play script or anything. And it was so good. I really, really enjoyed this. Even though I knew the story, I felt like it was a just phenomenal read. And it's a great Christmas time read because technically he is sort of telling the story at Christmas time. So if you want a spooky Christmas read, this is definitely something you should check out. I don't really read a lot of horror because I am just the biggest wimp in the world, but this was fantastic. I really, really loved this. It was so, so good. Next is a book that I actually have tried to read in the past and couldn't quite get my brain into it. However, I want to give it another try because I love this author and I really like the story. It just wasn't the right book for me to read at the time. This is Deep Light by Frances Harding. I love Frances Harding. I feel like I say this every time I mention her. I've read one of her books, which is The Lie Tree, which is phenomenal, and I have a ton of her stuff sitting on the shelf waiting for me to read it, and for some reason I haven't. So I just keep collecting Frances Hardinge books and not reading them, which is really dumb. But this looks so, so good. I read about 100 pages of the proof copy that I was sent when this came out in October, the end of October this year. And it's a little bit dense. It's much more dense, I think, than The Lie Tree, which is much more of an easy read. And it wasn't the right thing for me to be reading at the time. However, it was such an interesting story and a fantastic world that I want to keep going with it. So Deep Light follows two boys who live on this kind of, this island society, this chain of islands, and the gods of the ocean have died long, long ago, and people go down to the depths of the ocean and bring up bits of their bodies because they have magical properties. And it's kind of a big economy for the island. So these two boys are kind of very, very petty criminals, very much the bottom of the food chain, and events happen and they end up getting separated. One of the boys begins to, he doesn't have a great life, but he starts to have a kind of a better and more consistent life, and then his friend comes back and kind of throws a wrench in things. That was as far as I got into this book when I tried to read it the first time, and it's a beautiful world. She's a beautiful writer, and I'm very, very excited to keep going with this one. And I love this edition. It has these amazing orange sprayed edges. I've never seen orange edges before. And because Frances Hardinge books are always fabulous under their cover, we have this, but also on the spine we have all these marine animals. So I love books that are set kind of at and on the ocean, and this was something that very much appealed to me. So I'm really looking forward to going ahead and continuing with this story. The next book that I have is one that is slightly puzzling to me because there's no reason I should want to read this book, but it looks so fun, and I can't get this book off of my brain. So this is The Vanished Bride by Bella Ellis. This is the first book in the Bronte mysteries. And I really, really hate the Brontes. To be fair, I haven't given Anne her fair chance, but I absolutely hated Jane Eyre. I could never finish it. I tried like 3 times, and I absolutely hated Wuthering Heights. So there's no reason I should want to read a book about the Bronte sisters solving crimes, but I really do. Because this looks like so much fun. So this is set in Yorkshire in 1845. A young woman has gone missing, and the only evidence is a pool of blood in her bedroom and rumors of her bad marriage. And the Bronte sisters hear about this and they decide to investigate. It sounds awesome. I hate the Brontes so much though. Maybe it's just not a personal thing. Maybe I just hate their books. But I'm really baffled by why I'm so intrigued by this book, but it looks really fun, and it has this lovely design under the cover. I'm completely baffled by why I want to read this book so badly, but it looks like so much fun and I cannot wait. This looks like a really great winter read. The next book that I have is also historical fiction, and it looks a bit gothic-y. This is The Lost Ones by Anita Frank. I don't think that this is like a full-on proper gothic novel because it takes place in 1917, and at least in my mind, gothic novels take place in the Victorian period or earlier. I could be making that up, but this looks really, really fun. And in fact, on the inside here, it says that it is in the classic tradition of the woman in black, which I just read and loved and also featured in this video. So this looks like a really, really fun book. This looks like something that would really appeal to me as someone who loves Laura Purcell's books, The Silent Companions and Bone China. We don't talk about the corset. And this looks like it's going to be really fun. So we follow a character named Stella, and her fiance has just died and she's kind of reeling from his death, and she takes the opportunity to stay with her sister Madeline at her imposing country manor. However, when she arrives, she finds a house of unease and her sister gripped by fear and suspicion. So strange incidents begin to happen and trouble Stella in the night, and she is aided by a wounded war veteran, and she decides she's going to uncover the secrets of their house and find out why her sister is so terrified. This sounds really, really good. It sounds like exactly my cup of tea, and I cannot wait to read it. Sounds like another book that is great for winter reading. And the very last book that I have to show you is one that I'm very excited for, a little bit outside of my wheelhouse generally, but it is science fiction. This is Exhalation by Ted Chiang. This is a book of sci-fi short stories, and he wrote a book called, I have it just over here somewhere, it's Stories of Your Life and Others, I think. And in that collection of short stories, we have the story that the film Arrival is based on. So I've actually not read that. I need to read it, but I really wanted to read this one as well. It is getting so much praise, not just from science fiction authors, but from kind of people outside the genre as well. I don't really know anything about it because it is a book of short stories, so it doesn't have kind of one consistent plot running through it, but I believe there are nine stories in this, and he also has some story notes where he talks about kind of his inspirations and everything, and sort of the content of the stories at the very back. So this looks really great. I'm very excited to read this. And that is it for my Christmas book haul. Those are the books that I received and also bought with Christmassy gift cards. I am so incredibly happy, and I have been set up for some really amazing reading in 2020. In the comments below, I would love to know if you received any books for the holidays, regardless of what you celebrate. If any of these books are in your TBR, or if you have read any of them before, definitely let me know. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.